The human touch in the hospitality and also in the real world across
Right.
industries, uh, AI can only assist.
Absolutely.
Therefore, it is assisted in some way, assisted technology.
Hello and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, a podcast series brought to you by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I'm absolutely thrilled about today's conversation because we are diving deep into the world of luxury hospitality, wellness innovation, and sustainability leadership. Joining me is someone whose career I've followed with great admiration, Mr. Srikant Peri. If you know anything about wellness driven hospitality in India and beyond, his name likely rings a bell. So,
Thank,
Mr. Perry, thank you and welcome to our show.
thank you very much, Priya. That's been very generous of you.
And Mr. Perry, before we delve into the many milestones of your distinguished career, I'd like to begin on a more personal note. Would you take a moment to walk us through your journey so far? We'd love to hear in your own words how it all began and what experiences or pivotal moments it could have even been a mentor, for that matter, who shaped the path you've taken. So we'd love to hear from you.
More like a time machine. It's all way back. I started way back in 1988 at the Taj Mahal Hotel in New Delhi. I
Right.
was a young butler then, wide-eyed, learning the language of service, but you had to keep quiet. And that experience taught me the quiet dignity of anticipation, the art of making someone feel seen without ever stepping into their space. From the shores of Goa to the colonial grace of Shimla, atolls of the Maldives, and finally to the Sayadris. The journey has been many things, but at the core, I feel that is the pursuit of excellence in storytelling. I've been a great storyteller, uh, whether through the way a new property is unveiled, the way the menu is narrated. My focus has been on enabling teams to craft meaningful guest experiences. So we just didn't deliver luxury, but we created value. We created value for guests, uh, but also for the brand. We created value for the people who delivered that value and also the communities that embraced us. And through it all, I always feel that, I was telling my son the other way that, it's like a time machine. I've seen guests evolve from Gen X, who had reverence for rituals, to millennials hungry for discovery, and now the Gen Z, who are in search for meaning, authenticity. So it's been a journey of time machine of guests, also technology. I mean, I started with manual ledgers and telexes.
Absolutely.
And rotary phones. When I tell somebody that, do you know shorthand? I don't know. It's like something else. They think it's software. But I've moved from handwritten days to CRM dashboards, and now AI assisted, where the AI can predict guest preferences before the even guest arrives. So it's been a great journey. But that hasn't changed the soul of hospitality. The power of presence, the ability to make someone feel that they belong. I think that's what I've cherished. It's been a journey of gratitude in most ways, not for the positions I held, for the people and the stories that made this journey unforgettable.
Right.
That's what.
Right.
Oh.
Right. So, Mr. Perry, and we talked about, adding value, to a customer's experience. Would you also say that it is when, customers might be required to fill in fill in certain forms where they given their personal information and data for, the place that they are residing at for the couple of days or couple of weeks. But do you also think customer experience is also about reading between the lines and trying to go above and beyond what the customer may not have mentioned, and then kind of catering to that their needs, like something which may not have been explicitly, mentioned out there. Like, what do you
No,
think?
I think the human touch in the hospitality and also in the real world across
Right.
industries, AI can only assist.
Absolutely.
Therefore, it is assisted in some way, assisted technology, but it can't replace the individual. And I'll give you a great
True.
example. When
True.
I was in Maldives, one of my properties was a very high-end luxury, six-tented property, upwards of around 3,500 US dollars a night. So
Okay.
it was unique in its own way. And there was this returning guest. I can't take the name for
Right.
preserve, but I can tell you that he was a very famous F1 driver coming along with
Okay.
a partner, visiting us for the fourth time. It was a small six-tented island, so everybody knew everybody. So we knew the guest in a way. We knew what they wanted, what time they wanted, and how they wanted. So there was no, how do I say, no rocket science in that. It was all about knowing people. But when they checked in, and 3 days later, I got a phone call. I was not on that island. I was on another island. And this team member said, Mr. Peri, something seems to be off. This gentleman and the lady are not speaking and interacting with each other with the same warmth that they used to in the previous visits. So, do you think we can do something about it? And I said, go ahead. And these people, empowered that they were, created special moments for them. They took them out for a private night fishing expedition, did a dinner for them at a sandbank under the stars, and at the time of checkout, Maldives is very strangely located. You have one airport, but many, many islands. So I met the guest at the airport to see him off and thank him. And he just whispered, Peri, what happened is that we came here a little bit troubled in our relationships, but your people brought us together and we are now closer than ever before. So I think these are the small things that your team can create, which are memory, and these can't be assisted. This cannot be done by technology.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's a very thoughtful. I think the intentionality behind each step is. I think it's something that really came across in your response and the little anecdote that you shared. Mr. Peri, something I've genuinely admired about your journey is how you've breathed new life into iconic properties, from the Oberoi to Banyan Tree and now Hilton. But what really stands out is the kind of environments you've led: luxury tents in the Maldives, remote retreats nestled in India's hills, not exactly your everyday city hotel. So we're curious, of all the reinventions that you've led, which one really pushed you the most, maybe even made you revisit your own leadership philosophy?
Well, frankly, none of my assignments were anything short of being memorable and indelible. They've left impressions, whether it be, from a 20-year-old butler in 1988, who was attached to J.R.D. Tata, Rahul Bajaj, and spending 18 hours a day in the presence of these people with them, and whether it be that, whether it be my first stint with global luxury with the Four Seasons in Bali, around and the 9/11 happened and we were launching the Leela in Bangalore, and we were still able to launch one of the most successful hotel launches that this country has ever seen. In the Maldives with the Banyan Tree, I led marine conservation initiatives, which then became very close to my heart. I understood what the difference between conservation and regeneration. So we started restoring the reefs, We started restoring the coral plantation,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. So it was, but then I think if I were to choose one, it would definitely be Shillim. There we were not creating a wellness retreat. We were cultivating a whole new way of living. We were creating a guest journey that to conscious being of the guest in itself. And Dharna challenged my assumptions in most ways. It slowed my pace, of course, and shifted my focus to from managing to meaning. I would say that I started to
Mm,
I wanted to create meaning for the people I worked with, the guests who
mm,
came here. It was from managing experiences. It started about creating a meaning in the experience. It reminded
mm.
that leadership is not about control; it's about presence. Uh, and I think in that silence, I found my greatest truth. So I would say it's Dharna.
Right, right. Thank you for your response. And that's a really powerful, and thank you for your candor. And that's such a powerful reflection. Mr. Peri, you've consistently driven impressive business results. But what really stands out is how purposefully you've balanced performance with deeper impact. And that's something that reflects in all of your, throughout our conversation, actually. And in today's world, especially when it comes to hospitality, success feels like it needs to be measured just beyond, the P&L sheet. From your lens, what are those non-financial metrics, those human, experiential, that leaders in our industry should really be paying attention to now?
True. I mean, the P&L tells you how your business is doing, but it will never tell you how your people are feeling or how your
True.
brand is being remembered. Uh,
True.
in today's world, I believe that true make markers of success are often is the invisible balance sheet that you're creating of experiences. Uh, you
Mm,
have assets and you have liability. Every bad experience is a liability. Uh,
mm,
for instance, how often does a guest return not for the room, but for a specific team member who made them feel
true.
at home?
Absolutely.
That's emotional equity. That is your asset. Uh, how many of your associates say that this place has shaped me? You know, even after they have
Right.
moved on. That's cultural continuity. I think, at Shillim, once we had a guest who left us a note, a small note, who said that I came here tired. Um, I leave here whole. You know,
Wow.
it was
It's such a
small,
powerful,
small
yeah.
message, so powerful. And leaders today, you need to track things like emotional resonance,
Mm,
memory creation, ecological stewardship. It's about regeneration, not that
mm,
uh, can you make that place better? I think
mm,
uh, in most ways than one. I mean, not only from the environment point of view, but from the experience point of view for your customers, for the teams that you work with, for the
mm,
stakeholders. Will you be able to make it better? And it's not only
mm.
in hospitality. Uh, I think we always say that we're not managing assets, but we are nurturing atmospheres.
Makes sense. Absolutely. And it's often those intangible markers that that often leave the biggest kind of impression on in one's memory. Um, Mr. Perry, we are in a time where technology, like you mentioned earlier, is evolving at lightning speed, and AI is streamlining operations, personalizing experiences, even predicting guest preferences. Um, I think this is something we touched upon in our previous questions. But if you, in your view, as someone who's always led with purpose, presence, led with a leadership that is governed by humanity, do you see empathy becoming not just a soft skill, but a real competitive advantage in this increasingly digital hospitality space?
Absolutely true. as technology gets sharper, I believe our leadership must get softer. Uh, it needs to be more attuned, more human. I'll just give you an example back again,
Yes, please.
Maldives, and we had a young Filipino who was working in the F&B, very cheerful, very, peppy at all time, a true culture carrier in a way, we used to call him. But we saw him that over a few weeks, he started getting withdrawn a bit. He missed out on
Right.
cues. His usual spark was gone,
Mm-hmm.
and all your performance dashboards, your daily performance
Right.
dashboards that you get,
Right.
how many guest recognitions, how many champagnes were sold, he was falling down on all that. I mean, very strange. That's when I had a casual chat with him, and that's when he broke down in a way. And his teenage daughter back at home in Philippines uh, had started. I mean, the parents had observed that there was an addiction problem that was there. Uh, and the distance, you get emotionally
Obviously,
stranded in that
yes.
distance, and and we had this whole holiday plan chalked out for the entire year. And we used to have something called R&R, rest and relaxation holidays, where the company used to pay to go back home. His RRR was due around 4 months later, but I think it was a small change in the timesheet that allowed us to, we said that, okay, tomorrow you pack up your bags, go on your R&R, we'll arrange for the ticket. And he was home in 18 to 18 hours, I think, from the time that we had this conversation. And when he came back home, he almost broke down and said, in gratification, and that really, and it was all about trust. We didn't ask for medical reports or
Correct.
psychological.
Correct.
It's all about trust. And AI technology, it cannot build trust. It will only analyze from past trends or anything, but it can't build that trust with you.
True.
So that that moment always rings with me, and saying that empathy is not a soft skill. It's a leadership strategy. It builds loyalty. It protects morale. And in a world where AI can remember your guest's favorite wine, only empathy can remember why it matters.
Correct.
Yes. Why it matters. I like this wine because it brings me great memories. This is the first wine that my wife, who is now my wife, when we were dating each other, this is the glass of wine that she ordered. That memory is much greater than the wine in itself. So in hospitality, we may automate services, but we can't automate care.
Right.
And empathy is in everything. If you can't feel,
Right.
you don't know where the shoe pinches the wearer. So
True, absolutely. And what I realized is that conversation that you had with him, and like we all have company policies which need to be adhered to, but trying to tweak it a little just to make someone's circumstance or life at that point in time a little easier. I'm sure he's going to look back at this, that the conversation that you had with him very fondly, and I'm sure he really, really appreciated it at that particular point in time, because you gave him something what he needed at that point in time. I think that's what really mattered. So thank you for sharing that with us. Mr. Peri, while you've already accomplished so much, I have to ask, when you look ahead, what excites you the most, whether it's evolving the wellness space further or even contributing at the board level? What kind of roles or impact do you see yourself stepping into in this next chapter of your leadership journey? We'd love to hear from you.
It's a question that I've been reflecting on deeply, frankly. At this stage of my journey, what excites me isn't scaling operations. It's actually, again, if I were to come back to it, it's about shaping meanings. I would love to contribute at a more strategic level, of course, whether that be, with wellness-driven hospitality brands, ESG focused ventures, I think that's become very dear to me in the past 10 years
Yes.
or 11 years.
Yes.
Both from the Maldives and Shillim experience, or even at the board level where long-term stewardship meets short-term agility in a way. The wellness space in particular is still in its adolescence. There is immense potential to integrate science with soul and sustainability. And I would love to actually play some part in that evolution.
Right.
Ensuring we just don't chase trends, but build enduring ecosystems that serve both people and the planet.
Right.
Equally, I'm drawn to the idea of mentoring next-gen leaders. I think life has been kind to me with my experiences, and if
Right.
I can help someone navigate through revenue models, not really, but with rhythm and resonance with their work and lifestyle. I think
Right.
I believe leadership today is as much about creating the climate of emotional, cultural, environmental together as it is about creating results. So I think the
Right.
climate part of it, I think I would like, if I can help somebody, I think that would be very pleased. So whether it is consulting, advising, or shaping governance at higher level, I'm excited to bring my whole full spectrum of experience into spaces that seek depth, and not just direction. So
Right. And you've built such a rich foundation, a legacy almost. And I'm sure that whatever you plan to do next and will be a very beautiful journey in the future as well. This question came to me when you were responding, saying that your first job was in Delhi, the Taj Hotel at Delhi, right?
yeah.
Yes, as a butler.
Mhm.
And while all our work experiences have different kinds of lessons to offer, what was that one lesson that you learned in your first job as a butler, which is something that you have adhered to or it still holds true till today?
I think listening
Listening.
and
Okay.
being invisible in spaces,
Hmm.
being
Right.
present but yet being invisible. I
Yes.
think a
Yes.
lot of us want to, we don't listen, we just hear. And by the time, in the first one third of the question, we've already framed the answer in our mind. Uh, we listen to somebody with a view to answer that person. Uh, I think, and we always want to enforce ourselves in a room. And therefore, I think,
Yes.
listening is a skill that is lost. Being present yet being invisible is lost. But when we
Correct.
were there were no
Correct.
WhatsApp, there were no telexes, there were nothing. So you had to be in the room. There were no
Yes.
recordings, so you had to take down shorthand notes and
Correct.
it out. So we were present there. 18 hours I was there in the same room with Rahul Bajaj, whether he's interacting with a minister or he's interacting with a friend.
Hmm.
So I was present,
Hmm.
yet I was invisible, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, so I think, and you were always listening. I think
Right.
these were the
Right.
two skills that my earliest life taught me, of being present yet being invisible and to listen.
I think that's such sound advice because we are surrounded currently in, there's so much of noise and there's no dearth of opinions. So, what you just said, listening and being invisible in certain spaces, that just makes a lot of sense. So, thank you. Thank you for that. Mr. Perry, having seen how deeply sustainability is woven into your work, and you have talked about ESG in your previous response and how passionately you feel about sustainability and conservation. From your perspective, how do ESG principles really come to life on the ground? And what kind of impact have you seen where they're not just followed, but truly embraced and made a very integral part of, a company's fabric, so to speak?
So I think from the G part of the ESG, I think governance is very important. But for me, the E and S are no longer important. And I'll tell you why. For me, sustainability is no longer enough. It's no longer enough. In hospitality, as in any other industry, we can't merely be sustainable. We need to be regenerative. The word is regeneration. Sustainability asks, how do we reduce harm? Right? How do we reduce the harm that we're doing to the environment? But regeneration asks, how do we leave this place better than the way we found it? That's the shift I'm passionate about. Whether it be about the environment, whether it about the communities that embrace us, how can we make it better? At Shillim, we started with solar energy, rainwater harvesting, diesel substitution. Yes, all the classic ESG, But the real transformation came when we started thinking beyond conservation, actually to contribution. From conservation to contribution. You start contributing to the environment, to the communities around you. We brought in forest bathing, for example. Forest bathing it's a Japanese way of just walking into the forest and bathing yourself in the environment of the forest. You hug a tree and just bathe yourself in the environment. Listen to the sounds of nature, But that's a reconnection ritual for the guest. And similarly, circular supply chains that empowered local farmers, helped them with soil preservation technologies. They had stopped growing chana between two farms, which was so important once way back. Guest it was not about offsetting, but with deeper relationship to the land, to the place, to the people around it. So
you have your nitrogen fixers in the nodules of the
the
the legumes.
I think.
Yeah.
But we forget, right? So we went back to the villages. It was not about giving food to them, but we took nutrition classes to them on how they can balance their diet. So it's not ever about, it's like you don't give them fish, but you teach them how to fish. So you teach them how to lead a good life. You teach them how to sustainable farming methods. So then what about creating a circular economy? So I really believe that when ESG becomes regenerative, it shifts from being a governance metric. It starts becoming a living philosophy, and it's not just about how we do business. It's about how we leave behind beauty. I think it's all about beauty of the place, beauty of the business, creating value, right? So ESG is about creating value for all stakeholders. But I think we need to move from sustainability to regeneration very, 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 very fast.
Makes sense. Makes sense. It's a very fresh perspective. In fact, I've heard it for the first time. Instead of sustainability, I think it's I think we should stop, because when you talk about sustainability, it's about using how much you need to and then making sure some of it is left behind for the coming generations and things like that. But this is a new perspective, like regeneration. I think we have gone beyond sustainability, and yes, regeneration should be the new.
No, we've lived we are brought up in a culture of offsets, Priya. From a young time itself, you commit a sin, you go to the temple, Sawa Rupe ka prasad to Hanuman,
absolve yourself,
or you get into a booth and you confess and you have absolved yourself, right? But I think we need to go really beyond it and say that if I've done anything wrong, I need to make it correct. How do I leave a better place? So
yes,
that's the way I think I see it.
Interesting. Yes, absolutely. Makes absolute sense. And as we near the end of the interview, Mr. Peri, I'd love to touch on something a little bit more recent. And you've joined Directors Institute very recently, and it's always interesting to hear what the experience has been like firsthand, your perspectives, what drew you to the platform, and how has it added value to the way you view leadership.
So frankly, I mean, I took a break from my assignments. I wanted to see what I wanted to do ahead. And when I took it, what attracted me was that ESG certification. So
Right.
Director Guild was secondary to me. And then when I joined the Director Institute, it was I came to know that it was something like a natural evolution. After years of operational leadership, I found myself drawn to the deeper architecture of organizations,
Mhm.
governance, purpose, long-term impact.
Right.
What resonated, as I said, is ESG not as a policy, but as a philosophy for modern leadership. It
Mhm.
challenged me to think beyond guest satisfaction
Mhm.
in a way. It strengthened my reasoning of my purpose for past 10 years, that, what I did actually makes difference in the boardroom, not just for the shareholders, but for the
Mhm.
communities and ecosystems. Now,
Mhm.
that lens is already shaping, and now I see my next chapter. I hope to contribute at the board levels, um, guiding brands that want to align performance with purpose. I think that's very important for me, close to my heart, um, and bring hospitality mindset in every industry. You know, we are all about caring about people, right? So we look at
I
our
agree.
customers as guests. We look at our team
I
members
agree.
as the main delivery systems. So I think if all industries can bring a hospitality mindset, human intuitive, regenerative into boardroom thinking, I think that would be a wonderful way. And I think Directors Institute has helped me in many, many ways. It has given me tools to shape these systems. Uh,
Mhm.
because, end of the day, at this stage of my life, it's not about, uh, it's not just about, it's all about, in a way, my memories, nothing about my memories, but I now look forward to the legacy I leave behind, and the
Mhm.
futures I help people build, So I think that's what I
Right.
look forward to.
Right. Thank you for your kind words. It's always encouraging for us to continue doing what we're doing. And when we know that it's added value at this stage in your journey. So thank you for your response. Mr. Perry, I have to say, this conversation has been nothing short of enriching. Your ability to blend vision with, grounded leadership is something our audience is really going to carry forward. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks a lot for your time, Priya, and have a happy Easter.
Absolutely. Thank you. And same to you as well. Uh, Conversations like this remind us why leadership isn't just about scale, it's about substance. Thank you again, Mr. Perry, for joining us on FaceTime with Leaders. And to our audience, thank you for being part of our podcast, which is brought to you by Directors Institute. Until next time, this is your host, Priya George, signing off. Keep leading with purpose. Thank you and take care.